Okay, so we've just collected a third of the camera traps, and I thought while I'm out here now, I might as well take this opportunity to explain this business that's gone on over the weekend. So the story is this: a man has alleged that he's been attacked whilst out walking in the Surrey hills by what he claims was a spotted leopard. Now, I'll put an attachment to the story so you can see it for yourself, but there's a couple of things I wanted to talk about this, okay, because it impacts me, because they quote me in the story and Surrey Panther Watch. The story is this: that while he was out walking, he saw some movement in the bushes, and he said it was a deer, so he stopped to take some pictures. At which point the deer let out a shriek and come running out of the bushes with a leopard connected to it. He said it bounded up the path with the leopard on it and collided into him. The three of them went sprawling all over the grass. The deer sprang off and made an escape, at which point the leopard scratched him, and then he managed to fight it off, and he was left dazed on the ground. He looked at his arm and he realised he'd been cut and he was bleeding. So he decides to go home, and he didn't go to the hospital. He didn't want to have the wounds looked at. He thought they might think he's an idiot or a nutter when he says he was attacked by a big cat. So he doesn't go to the police or phone the police and say, "I've just been attacked by a wild animal and I think it's probably dangerous." He does say in the story that he thinks it was an accident. Obviously the cat was trying to get the deer. And then he goes home, has a shower, and then looks on the internet, where he finds my site and my stories, and he's about the information I spoke with the BBC about there actually are big cats out here in the Surrey hills. And then he decides to phone the press with his story. He chooses to remain anonymous, but they turn up, and I guess he got paid for the story, and they photograph his injuries. So he takes his shirts off. The story is that he has scratches all over his body. There's some debate about whether the original story said bite marks. I thought it did, and some of the members of another group I'm connected to, we seem to remember bite marks. Now we thought, because I remember saying this at the time, because bite marks, that could prove or disprove whether this was a leopard, because the distinct tooth pattern they would make, there's two upper canines, two lower ones. When they bite, they leave distinct marks which can be measured. So, but anyway, the story about the bite marks disappeared, but he's left with scratches all over his body. So, looking at the scratches, he has 3 small scratches on his shoulder. He has one long one down his belly. Apparently he has face scratches and some scratches on his arm and bruising. Now, they don't show you the scratches on his face, and they don't show you the scratches on his arm. So we've released a press statement. The group I'm affiliated with, we're a nationwide network of like-minded researchers and big cat experts. We're called Big Cats in Britain STARS, and what it doesn't mean we think we're stars, it just stands for scientists, trackers and researchers. And our group consists of a lot of experience when it comes to big cats, and the general consensus is that these injuries are absolutely no way consistent with a leopard attack. We have people who in our group have hand-reared leopards, and they've, the scratches they've received from the youngsters are worse than what he's got. Now, there are a lot of people saying, there's a lot of comments on this, it's been all over the big cat forums. There's people saying, well, give the man credit, he would have had clothes on, it would have had to bite through, scratch through his coat. Well, they could have given us pictures of the scratches on the coat, couldn't they? But they choose not to. And then he has one long sort of scratch down his entire torso, which could be anything. So look, there's 2 ways of looking at this story. It's either true, or it's made up and it's a hoax. So let's assume that it's true. Is it plausible? Well, funny enough, it is. It is very plausible. The story says that it was attacking a deer which collided with him. I guess in all the confusion, the cat, would have been shocked. he's, you know, doing the dance with a deer in the forest, as they probably normally do, trying to bring it down. And all of a sudden, there's a human in the midst. Surprised and shocked. He might have clawed at the guy to get away. So it is plausible. But the one thing that lets his story down is he claims it was a spotted leopard. Now, members of my group have speculated, well, maybe he's mistaken. Maybe it's a lynx or one of these savannah cats or a serval or something. But no, he's adamant. He says, I know what a dog is, what a cat is. He says, this was a leopard. I know what a leopard looks like. So he's sure it was a spotted leopard. Now, the problem we have with that is in all the time I've been researching big cats in Britain, there's never ever been a reported case of a spotted leopard. There are leopards, but they're melanistic leopards. They're black leopards, black panthers. Never ever been a spotted leopard. And all the research I've ever done on the Surrey puma, which is a little bit misleading, there's never been in the Surrey puma sightings timeline, going back to the 50s, again, never been a spotted leopard spotted. Not just that, but my colleagues around the country also say, never had a report of a spotted leopard. So either he's got his facts wrong, or he's been attacked by the only spotted leopard in the country that no one's ever seen. Listen, it's plausible. May have not been long released. We can't say that. But it's highly unlikely. So look, in all, the scratches, not consistent with a leopard attack. The fact that he says it's a spotted leopard, not consistent with what we normally see. So he's remained anonymous. They don't show his facial scratches, they don't show his arm scratches or any bite marks. He never went to hospital, which we're pretty sure if he don't, he'll get infection. You know, they carry bacteria under their claws, these cats. He never called the police and said, she should have, I've been attacked by, although it was an accident, I've been attacked by a dangerous animal. So we'd have to say this is a hoax. Now, I just need to backtrack a bit because I was preempting with this story. I got an email from the journalist who asked me to comment. She said she told me what the story is about, and I said, well, look, I can't comment, or I won't comment until I have more evidence. Could you please send me the photographs? Was he hospitalised? Was the police involved? How does he know it was a leopard? And what area are we talking about? Well, they didn't get back to me. So I left it a day. I then emailed them the next day and said, you know, I'm still waiting to hear. If you'd like a comment, I'd like a bit more information. They totally ghosted me. Then the story breaks. And then I find, while I'm reading it, they quote me. Well, not quotes that I said about this, but I recently did a BBC podcast called Secret Surrey, where I make some disclosures about my research. And I stand by those disclosures, and I'll tell you what they are. I've said that my studies strongly suggest, that there are at least 5 cats active at this time in a 10-mile radius of Guildford. Now, that's just what my data shows me. I have a Google sightings map with all the pins of all the sightings that I've reported. Not just those, but also the reports from the Freedom of Information requests we get from the Surrey Police and Thames Valley Police. And those are fascinating, and I take those very, very seriously, because when people make police reports, it's not for publicity or because you know, they think that's the way to go. Not for publicity. It's because they genuinely fear for the public. They've seen an animal that they don't think, you know, they would normally see out in their environment. They've seen a mountain lion, or they've seen a black panther. So they phone the police and they make a report. Now what normally happens is they'll get an incident report and there's no further action. But we get access to these reports, and they're all part of my studies. They're all part of my big dossier that's mentioned in the report. So they didn't ask me for comment, so I'm giving a comment now. Personally, while this is a plausible attack, and it's highly unlikely. So I would have to say this is a fake. This is a hoax. The only good thing that comes out of this is that he says he didn't think the cat meant to attack him, which he obviously wouldn't have done. He was trying to catch the deer. So they're not, you know, they don't see people as food. They don't see us as competition. In all the cases we've ever had, they tend to just ignore us and slink away. Right? There has been cases where people have been growled at, but we feel this might be because they just don't want those people near where their den site is, or maybe it's a male looking for females. And there have been reports of people that have been injured. There's 3 that I know of. There was a young lad, Josh Hopkins, I believe, was scratched across the face when he was looking for his cat or something in the long grass. I don't fully know the story, but the scratches on his face just look to me like he's gone for a bramble bush. All right, but that doesn't mean he wasn't scratched. He's quite adamant he was. There's another lady, I believe, Sarah Dyke. Please forgive me if that's the wrong name, but I'm just telling you second-hand information. That apparently she received a swipe injury, and I do know of a case. I think it's somewhere in Kent, quite a long time ago, maybe 78, maybe I'm somewhere around then. I think it's something like Sydenham in Kent, maybe there. Guy claimed that he was attacked by a big black cat in his back garden. The story says that he heard some commotion outside. He went out to check on his cat, where he was attacked by this black cat, which he managed to fight off. He did go to hospital, and the police were called, and the police did say that they did see a big cat in the area. But then there's some, you know, the story goes vague then, because there is some speculation that, again, the injuries weren't consistent with a leopard attack. You know, these are big animals, and I just want to point out something to you. The pictures of this guy, he's got on his shoulder 3 little scrapes here under a load of bruising. It does look like makeup, I've got to tell you. Other people saying, yeah, he's gone through his coat, so it may have sort of shielded it a bit. But the thing is, you've got to take into account, a leopard's paw is as big as my hand. Forget the thumb, but it's as big as my hand. And if that was to scratch him, as a swipe, they leave diamond-shaped cuts. They're razor sharp. He'd be raked to the bone. The other inconsistency really is the bruising. Now, if a cat swiped, there wouldn't really be any bruising. If it whacked, there would be deep puncture marks. He doesn't have either. He's kind of got a combination of the two. So, hoaxy, hoaxy. See you later. So anyway, I'm back to the van now. We're going to get the computer up, and we're going to put these SD cards in, see if we got ourselves a big black cat.